Tonight, we're not cracking open a case file from the police archives. We're investigating a crime that happens inside the human body, a mystery that affects millions, but it masquerades as just being tired. This is the case of the unexplained sleep, when feeling tired is actually a danger signal. Let's dig into the evidence.
You know the advice we all get? Just get your 8 hours, you'll be fine. But what if you do? What if you get 8, 9, maybe even 10 hours of sleep, but you still wake up with this overwhelming, irresistible pull back to sleep? What if the real mystery isn't how long you're sleeping, but why you just can't seem to stay awake?
You know, for millions of people, a full night's sleep, it just doesn't work. Because this isn't about bad habits or not trying hard enough. No, deep inside the brain, an unseen assailant is at work. Think of it like a neurological misfiring or a silent, slow deprivation of oxygen that's causing damage night after night. Something is hijacking the very process of being awake.
Okay, so every good investigation starts at the beginning. You have to correctly identify the victim. And in this case, our first big clue is realizing we're dealing with a classic case of mistaken identity. The real victim here is sleepiness, but it has a very convincing posture, fatigue. And telling them apart, well, that's absolutely critical.
So let's look at this. This is so important. On one side, you have fatigue. That's what you feel after a marathon or a really tough week at work. Your body's just out of resources, right? It's a state of depletion. But sleepiness, that is a whole different beast. It's a neurological drive. It's your brain issuing a command to shut down, and it is powerful. It's an irrepressible need to fall asleep no matter what you're doing.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of our investigation. It comes from a source on work safety, and it highlights a key piece of evidence. See, fatigue is transient. You can rest, you can have a cup of coffee, you can recover. But this kind of sleepiness, it's relentless. It just persists and builds, and it doesn't go away until you get the sleep it demands.
All right, now that we've properly identified our victim, sleepiness, it's time to profile the main suspects. These are the neurological conditions that are known for causing this kind of trouble. And each one has a very distinct MO, a unique way of messing with the brain's on-off switch.
So here's our lineup. First up, you've got narcolepsy. This one is the master of the ambush, hitting with sudden, uncontrollable sleep attacks. Then there's sleep apnea, the silent saboteur. It works by repeatedly cutting off your breathing at night, starving your brain of oxygen. The result is feeling absolutely wiped out the next day. The most mysterious one is idiopathic hypersomnia. This is where you sleep for 10, maybe 12 hours, but you wake up feeling like you haven't slept a wink. And finally, restless leg syndrome, which constantly disrupts your sleep with this irresistible urge to move.
Now, one of the most unsettling pieces of evidence, especially in those idiopathic hypersomnia cases, is something called sleep drunkenness. And let me tell you, this isn't just feeling a little groggy. This is a profound state of confusion and disorientation when you wake up. It's like your body is awake, but your brain is still completely stuck in deep sleep. It's a really jarring experience.
So, with all these suspects, how do you figure out which one is the real culprit? Well, just like a real detective, a sleep specialist has a whole toolkit of forensic methods to gather evidence and unmask what's really going on behind all that sleepiness.
The first step in any investigation is always to assess the scene, right? And for sleep detectives, that means they need to figure out just how bad the problem really is. So they start with a simple but really effective tool called the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It helps them gauge if there's enough evidence here to even open a full investigation. The questions are pretty straightforward, almost like a preliminary interrogation. On a scale of 0 to 3, they might ask you, what's the chance you doze off while just sitting and reading? For most of us, maybe a slight chance, but for someone in the grip of one of these conditions, that chance could be very, very high. Then the questions move into slightly more passive situations. How about this? You're a passenger in a car, just riding along for an hour. Now, a healthy person might get a little drowsy, sure, but someone with a serious sleep disorder might find it almost impossible to fight off sleep in that situation. And here's where the questions start to get really alarming. What about being in a car but stopped in traffic for just a couple of minutes? If your answer is that there's a moderate or high chance of dozing off right there, well, we're not talking about just being tired anymore. We're talking about a serious danger. So it all comes down to this number, 10. A score of 10 or higher on that scale, that's the forensic threshold. That's the point where a doctor looks at it and says, okay, we've got something here. It's the lead that justifies launching a full-scale investigation into what's going on neurologically. Once that Epworth scale gives them a strong lead, the investigation really kicks into high gear. It starts with symptom tracking, usually a detailed sleep diary. That's like gathering witness statements from yourself. Then the case gets handed to a specialist. They'll likely order an overnight stakeout, a sleep study, to monitor everything from brainwaves to breathing. And the final step is often the interrogation, a daytime test that measures exactly how fast you fall asleep. The results can be pretty eye-opening.
So after gathering all the evidence, from the questionnaires, the diaries, the high-tech stakeouts, the investigators can finally reach a verdict. And that verdict points to a very clear set of danger signals that separate normal, everyday fatigue from a genuine pathological disorder.
So here they are. These are the red flags, the smoking guns. An irrepressible need to sleep every single day for at least 3 months. Taking naps that give you absolutely no relief. Experiencing that intense sleep drunkenness when you wake up. Falling asleep in the middle of a conversation or even while eating a meal. And the big one, a level of sleepiness that seriously gets in the way of your work, your social life, or your safety. This is the evidence that says, this is not normal. Now, of course, solving the case is one thing, but figuring out the next steps is a whole other story. This is all for educational purposes. In the real world, it's organizations like the American Academy of Sleep Medicine that develop the evidence-based guidelines doctors use. Any final decision about treatment is always a complex, personal one, made with a healthcare provider. And that pretty much closes our case for today, but it does leave you with one final, kind of unsettling thought, doesn't it? You spend about a third of your life completely unconscious, with your brain operating in total darkness. Do any of us really know what it's doing in there? The mystery of sleep runs deep. It pays to stay vigilant.